attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, I'd like to convene the Single Family Design Board for March 29th, 2021. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chair Miller. This is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call. We have Chair Miller,
Here.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Here.
Board Member Koloss,
Here.
Board Member Klein, here, Board Member Motisha,
Here.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're open to general business for public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for a public discussion. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar or would like to comment on an item not on today's agenda, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates that you wish to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for items not on today's agenda?
Thank you, Barbara, and board members. We have not received any general written correspondence for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mary. We do have one hand raised, so I will call on Richard Clausen. Let's see, I'm going to send you an unmute request. And okay, your microphone's live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Miller and board members. Before you groan at the mention of my name, I'm just here to learn the official outcome of comments that I made about 6 weeks ago. At that time, I asked for that minutes would display a simple sentence or summary of written and spoken comment with the commenter's name, and I see that that's been addressed by posting the full written comments, and I appreciate that and thank staff for that. But I think that the issue of spoken comments, identification and summaries in minutes has not been addressed yet. And secondly, that you announce at the time of, or at the beginning of each agendized project, the number of virtual attendees so that we all know what the size of the audience is and the public interest in the project. I look forward to continued progress on these concerns in the name of just transparency. Thanks very much.
Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clausen, for your comments. And there's actually has been some follow through in terms of emails and contact with the city attorney. Ms. Burkhart, do you have any follow-up or comments you'd like to say about that?
We have been working with the city attorney's office with Tava Ostringer. She was not able to come to today's meeting. We had originally planned to have her here today to discuss this very topic. However, she had a schedule conflict. So she has offered to take questions from the chair or from the board via email, and then she'll decide what would be the best way to follow up, whether it be a memo to the board or just coming back to the board with a discussion on the topic. So we'll follow up with you as we learn more on that. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted also to let Mr. Clausen know that there are a couple board members that are very actively engaged in that conversation. So I suggest watch because we definitely will have some follow-up comments about the issues you brought up. So with that being said, I'll move on to item B, approval of the minutes for the single family design meeting for March 15th, 2021. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Let's go through the items, please. Item 1, 1553 Shoreline Drive. Item 2, 712 Arbolado Road. Hearing no changes or comments, may I have roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. I'll go ahead and start with Chair Miller,
Yes?
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Kloss,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, approval of the consent calendar for March 22nd. May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Thank you. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Burkhart, may you go through the items, please?
Sure, thank you. Item A was 1 Mesa Lane. Received comments from the board. Item B was 1109 Garcia Road. The action was, the board continued the item indefinitely. Item C was 840 San Roque Road. The action was for project design approval. The reviewers were board members Motisha and Klein.
Thank you very much. May I have roll call, please?
All right, I'll start with Chair Miller,
Yes?
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Kloss,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Uh-oh. We lost Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler, I'm sorry, if you're there, can you please say something, Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Moving on to today's consent, March 29th. May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Boy, at the same time.
Oh, Fred, you got it.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burkhart, may you go through the items, please?
Sure. Item A was 1257 Dover Lane. The action was for project design approval and final approval with comments. The reviewers were board members Motisha and Klein.
All right, thank you very much.
Question,
May I have roll call?
question.
Yes. Yes, please.
Did we, Board Member Klein and I approved this design approval? Did we give it final approval also today? Didn't ask for it, but I just heard.
You know what? You're right. It was only project design approval now that I recall. So we will make that correction to the minutes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
I don't mind. I just saw a difference of a question there.
All right, thank you for the clarification. May I have a roll call, please?
All right, we have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Kloss,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. Did we have any of those?
No, board member, Chair Miller, we do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, I believe we do not have any subcommittee reports. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, hearing that, let's move on to the agendized item, item number 1. This is a continued item. Project design approval and final approval is requested. Proposal for 165 square foot addition to the first floor and a 429 square foot addition to the second story of an existing 2,167 square foot two-story single family residence, as well as a 54 square foot addition to an existing 400 square foot detached two-car garage, and a new 167 square foot accessory building added to the rear of the garage. The project also includes adding 2 new dormers to the roof, an expansion of the existing pool, a new pool deck, and new pool fence. Additionally, a new tank water heater, forced air heater, and 200 amp electrical panel is proposed. The accessory dwelling unit, ADU, is proposed under a separate permit. The proposed total of 3,927 square feet of development on a 15,246 square foot lot is 90% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Do we have minutes for this one? Because it says it's continued item, so I'm not clear. Do we have previous minutes for this project? Project design approval and final approval are requested. Project requires neighborhood preservation. Thank you. Mr. Sweeney, could you please go over the minutes with us?
So this is from our last review. So there was a motion to continue indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. The board is supportive of the changes in the architecture. Clarify that changes to the roof or provide examples of the roof definition. The board supports the changes of the roof lines to bring the house in harmony with one architectural style. 4, provide an alternative color palette for the house in lieu of the stark white. 5, provide a full landscape plan and include the trees in the landscape plan. It was on a motion by Motisha, second by Farrell. Sweeney was absent, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I guess my question to Mr. Sweeney is, did you see the video of this previous session?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have a representative for this project?
Yes.
Hi. Chairman, if I could offer a few comments before the applicant begins their presentation.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so after this project was before you last time, staff conducted an application completeness review and determined that the project actually needed to go before the HLC. So they have been before the HLC. A resolution to designate the property did not pass, so the project is now before the SFDB again for project design approval and final approval. And with that, I believe the applicant can present their project unless Mr. Hamilton wanted to offer some more comment.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhardt and Mr. Chair, and to the board members. No additional comments other than to say that I am just present to assist with this project since it was last reviewed at HLC as well. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Otherwise, this project is eligible for project design and final approval today. Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Grinnell, if you'd like to share what the project for us and based on our minutes.
Thank you, and thank you, board, for seeing us today. And I'd like to thank Mr. Hamilton also for attending. He was actually the planner assigned to the project when I first came to you in November with this project, and through a sort of whirlwind of review process. And about a little over 6 months, we are back in front of you with a project that's pretty much the same, but with some clarifications to the overall scope and the design of the project. The project, as was stated, there are a few people on the board who weren't part of the first review. It is a older 1920s house that's had additions done in the 30s and then also in the 90s. And so it's got a bit of a hodgepodge aesthetic. It's very mixed up. And so our overall intent and goal is to fix the floor plan, fix the roof lines, and really just create a more cohesive aesthetic of the house. So there's a rendering of the front as proposed, and there are more renderings as part of the package that show the general intent. I'd like to just go through the floor plans first and then show you the visual portion of it. So if we can go to the second page, which is the site plan. The one right before that, sorry. Yes, that one, exactly. So this shows the general intent. Anywhere that has the checkered roof shows a new roof line. It is a bit of a confusing project, and I think that's something that came up in the first board meeting was what exactly is going on. And I think it's just a bit complex in terms of the floor plan. If you zoom into the main house, you can see there is the area of the first floor addition. So that's basically infilling a sort of hole within the house where there's buildings that have almost like a concrete courtyard, for a lack of a better term. Number 15 is referencing a bathroom addition that we're removing. And then the area of the second floor addition stair to be filled in, that's just filling in the staircase. There's currently a staircase that's blocking the windows of the house. And then basically from that line in the center of that second floor roof to the right is where the second story addition is going. If we zoom back out again, you can see the garage there, where we're proposing a new ADU above the existing garage with a mudroom / pool bathroom, and then a new covered deck that's completely open. So we can go to the next page and we can go through the demo plan. So, so this just shows the interior walls being demolished, that interior staircase, a few of the interior walls, that additional bathroom, and a couple of the garage walls are being removed, but leaving the non-conforming garage setback and garage walls that are on the property line. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this shows the second story, just where the roof is, that existing second story stair, and then the wall that we're removing on the second floor to expand. And this kind of goes through and shows the roof areas that we're adjusting in the new design. We can go to, I think the next page is schedule. So we can keep going to a 1.0. Okay. So this shows the floor plan of the house. So we're really leaving the front of the house intact. The area in the center there where there's the laundry powder, we're moving the staircase to the center of the house to create a more cohesive floor plan, a more centralized floor plan. So we're just changing some walls there and then adding a new balcony area. There's an existing deck and covered porch on the back of the house. We're going to remove that because it has this kind of funky ranch style wood post thing. We want to remove it and reconstruct it to match the existing residence and the look of the house. So that's where that new covered porch is. You can go to the next page. So here's the second floor addition. And so essentially from the line along the right of the master closet is the addition of the second story. So basically adding the stairwell and a master bathroom and sitting room there. We're also adding 2 new dormers to the attic space at the front of the house. Okay, we can go to the next page. And this is a new roof plan. So this shows the area, the new roof along the second story, and then also where we're adjusting the roof on the first floor to create a more consistent roof line from the street view, as well as create a roof that is cohesive over the first floor addition. You can go to the next slide. So this shows the garage. So we're just expanding the garage a bit, as well as kind of taking a little, without a better word, a little bite out of the corner to create a better look for the garage as it sets back to the ADU setback above. So that's in that upper right-hand corner of the garage. We're putting all the storage and the pool equipment, water heater inside the house inside a storage room to avoid any noise problems. Just creating a small bathroom for the pool area, pool storage, and then also a pool cabana. And then the pool is also being expanded, just not in a huge way, but just adding about 100, I think it's about 150 square feet to the pool area. All right, the next page. And this is the second story ADU. I know this isn't really under your review, but it's just generally showing the stair up to the ADU living room, bathroom.
Ms. Grinnell, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make sure what you're going over is what we've seen before, correct? There's nothing different
Yes.
from the last. Okay.
It is. It's just 6 months later.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, nothing significant has changed actually. So if you go to the next page, I think it's a roof plan. So next page, I think I think this will help clarify. So we've added the existing elevations to the exterior elevations to clarify the work, because that was one of the questions that came up in our first review, was just what exactly is going on because of the complicated floor plan. So this really shows like the area that we're changing the roof on the first floor, as well as the new roof line of the second floor, which currently has this sort of asymmetrical gable roof, and we're evening that out, as well as adding brick, and then changing the windows and doors, but keeping them in the same style. So next page. So this shows the back of the house, again, similarly, where we're removing the old wooden deck and then adding a new deck that's more in keeping with the style of the house, and really just trying to balance out the look of the house, and where there's some, strange moments happening, just resolving those with the new design. We can go to the next page. So again, side view, this is a good way to see where the second story addition is going. So we're expanding from line B out to line B. And the new deck in the backyard. You can go to the next page. We can go to the next slide here. Yeah, so this shows the driveway side. So again, showing the expansion of the second floor, but other than that, more or less staying the same. It shows the trash enclosure here on this elevation. Next slide. So this is the garage ADU. So showing where the existing garage is remaining and how the ADU is relating one to the property line and stepping in for the ADU setbacks while maintaining the non-conforming garage setback along the line 14 there. Okay, we can go to the next. So side elevation of the garage ADU. This is all pretty straightforward. Next slide. And then this is the pool house cabana. So it's just a very simple outdoor space for them to use by the swimming pool. And the next are, I think it's mostly just details, construction details, showing the brick where we want to add brick at the front of the house to just create a little more visual interest, the eave details, stair details, and some of the sort of brick to house detailing as drawn in some of those stairs. So looking at adding brick to the existing concrete patios as a finished material. You can go to the next page. So trash enclosure, window details. Next page. So this is the landscape plan. So the owners were not looking to do a real significant change to the landscape. They like the grass in the backyard and some of the trees that they had. One of the comments that came back last time was retaining the trees in the front. So just clarifying that we're going to keep the street side trees there, add some drought tolerant planting and grasses, as well as a pathway across the front, but keeping it very, very much in keeping with the house, and then keeping a lot of the back landscaping as existing. Next slide. Just showing some of the outdoor lighting, just a basic floodlights were needed, permeable pavers, and also just LED exterior lights for the house. Okay, and then we can just jump to the photos and the rendering sheet. This is just to, you know, again, just remind everybody about what the house looked like. That the second row on the left, the second, yeah, that picture there. There was some confusion in our last presentation about what was going on with the roof condition there. So that's just really to clarify that there's some sort of instepping of that gables piece. And if you zoom back out again, let's see which picture is it. Picture number 2 also kind of shows where we're looking to kind of adjust the roof, because there's just a sort of mix of different roof lines that are all coming in together. So a lot of the moves we're trying to do is to resolve some of this. We can go ahead and go to the next page. So this is the front of the house. And one of the comments that came back last time was looking at the colors of the house. And, you know, in speaking with the client, reviewing, they really like the brightness and lightness of going with a light cream white house with the darker windows. And so I wanted to show some examples of the overall aesthetic. So that's the images along the right side that really show how the look of the bright white house with the darker windows is really in keeping with the aesthetic and still feels traditional, because there was some comments about whether or not it, you know, it really is able to retain the aesthetic. But I think these are really good examples and really sort of show how well that look can be brought into the neighborhood and feel very welcoming, where right now the house is a dark gray, and, you know, they really want to kind of keep this lighter aesthetic. And then, you know, with the renderings, you can really see the dormers and the changes in the roof line and how it's really just creating a more consistent look for the overall house. We can go to the next slide. So here's just, again, more renderings and views of the house, and also talking to the materials. So looking at the light stucco, dark roof material, looking at using a natural or kind of more sandstone permeable paver and using white brick, and then kind of emphasizing the windows by using a dark black, sort of more authentic traditional style window, aluminum clad, but still with the true divided lights, and just very much in keeping with the aesthetic of the house. Using, you know, brick paving on some of the patios, and then having the pool be, you know, really blended into the landscape using a concrete, stamped concrete and stone, as well as bringing in more water-wise landscaping into the whole project. So I think that is pretty much it. There may be some, I know I went through this very fast, but I hit my 15 minutes. So I think that's it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, bringing it back, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara and Chair Miller. We have not received any written correspondence for this item.
Okay, thank you. We do have one hand raised. I'd like to call on Richard Clausen. I'm going to send you an unmute request. Okay, your mic is live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Miller. I don't know the owner or even the house, but I'm a neighbor living in the structure of Merritt Home a couple of blocks away, and always interested in fostering recognition of historic resources. So I tuned into the HLC meeting on March 17th, where this property was discussed. It was active and became embarrassing as the information spilled out. The project was referred after SFDB action for HLC review incorrectly by a staff person, which triggered a cascade of events, including a full review and report by the city's architectural historian. The HLC spent 2 hours reviewing the good faith updated plans provided by a fully compliant applicant, only to decide the property never should have been referred in the first place. Through many modifications over the years, it had lost its historic integrity and was unqualified to be even on the historic resources inventory, much less considered a structure of merit. My comment today is that I hope there will be some minor internal investigation into the flood. Somebody, some single person made the call to start the process. That person should face some discipline, like a note in the personnel file that the error occurred and the employee was counseled. Counseling usually includes some small retraining requirement and a limited probation period during which, if it happens again, could result in further action, including dismissal. This is a very common action in most large institutions. This may sound harsh, and accidents do happen, but it would be a start to a desirable change in attitude among staff. What they do matters both in a good and a bad sense. Actions have consequences. This procedure was first an embarrassment to the city. It could qualify as the poster child for many commercial complaints about a balky review process. Next, a waste of the applicant's time and money, which we have previously heard is always precious. Fourth, a waste of HLC and staff time, which also have assignable costs. And fifth, a delay for the project, which could have other consequences. None of us need to know the personnel details of the error or its correction, but we all, most of all the applicant, should want assurances it will be dealt with and prevented from recurring to another hapless applicant. It should not be swept under the rug. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen.
Chair Miller, there are no other hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just add to those comments that that's not really the purview of our board to make that comment, but I would trust that the city is listening and that our city attorney is listening to that, and will address that issue and perhaps come back to us and tell us what the results are. With that being said, I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. So I'm going to go down the list for any questions. Board member Sweeney, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do. And just to be clear, I did watch all of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting on this project.
Oh, good. Thank you.
As the applicant may know, I know this house fairly intimately. I spent several years inside this house because it was owned by my son's godparents, etc. So we spent a lot of time in here. So I do have some just quick questions. Let me start at the back of my list. You mentioned floodlights. Where are those located?
That one is they're just located outside the storage room. It's just more of a downlight. I wouldn't say it's a spot wall light.
Is it the one on the lower left?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I should.
Okay, and on the plan, could you just point to where it is, please?
Yeah, so that if we go to the site plan, or actually, I think it's on I can point it out on the landscape plan. It would be it's at the back, I'm sorry. There, so that would be right there, just outside the storage room there. Along the site edge, and then also one right there. And then there's also a light similar, and those are just more functional lights. So that would be down at the lower, outside the water heater closet on the lower half of the project on the side yard right there.
Okay, so thank you. So when you say functional, they just turn it on and off when they're needed, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So those are just for utilitarian purposes.
All right, and then the colors you mentioned, you had I thought a color board in there, and it looked like a swatch of the proposed paint color.
Yes, so that would be there.
Okay.
So yeah,
and,
we're looking.
and it's Benjamin Moore White Dove is the color, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
And that's the bulk of all the house.
That is the bulk.
Okay, and then the windows are a dark.
Are going to be an ebony, basically a black, which would be a black Marvin Signature Ultimate. So it's a high end aluminum clad wood interior,
Okay.
true divided light.
Okay.
And one of the things that we did, which we're going to look at doing, is a more historic sill add-on. I couldn't find a photograph of it, but something that's more in keeping with the existing in terms of the exterior sill.
Okay, and then while others are speaking, I'm going to pull my fan deck out for Benjamin Moore. Does the White Dove have a number?
It's OC 17.
OC 17. Okay, thank you. And then let's see. I think you had a picture. I'd just like to look at it again very quickly. The fence around the pool. You actually had a drawing there, I think, of gates and forgot what sheet that was on.
That would be on the third sheet of the rendering. So if we go to the render file, you're just talking about the pool gate or the
pool gate and fence.
So the pool gate and fence, we were planning to keep it very simple using like a white post and a glass divider or something similar. So something that's very open and translucent. They want to be able to see from the house into the pool and
A glass divider? Is that what you said?
Well, I mean, in terms of the pool gate here, that would be some sort of mesh, but sorry, it would be some sort of mesh. That they haven't picked the actual pool fabrication on that, but that would be a mesh fence basically with a white divider. So trying to keep it as sort of translucent as possible from the house to the pool.
So it's not glass, it's a wire mesh of some sort. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the sound quality wasn't great. I missed the answer. Thank you. And then my final question is, in watching the Historic Landmarks Commission, of course, they made several recommendations based on their criteria for historic structures, but they made some general architectural suggestions. Did you take any of that into account for today's presentation?
Mr. Sweeney, hold on. Can other board members please go on mute? Because I think we're getting some static. Thank you.
Thank you.
We definitely looked at the review, particularly as it related to the windows. We looked at the design of the windows and have definitely looked at detailing them so that they're as in keeping with the historic style of the house as possible. Definitely looked also at making sure that all the front railings, the street front facing railings are simple iron railings. We are going to keep the existing front door, which is like a plank front door with a small glass opening, and then utilizing, just as really the main intent is to keep the house as true to what it originally felt like. We want to keep as much of the existing stucco as we can. It's actually not shown here in the rendering, but we'll be keeping the existing vent or replacing it like for like in that front gable. So really, again, trying to keep the house as intact as possible. So we definitely, definitely the HLC process was a learning process. There's certain things that have to be adjusted in the windows themselves, just to comply with current code and egress issues. So we can't keep the windows, if we're replacing them, identical to what they were. And definitely understand that the house has a lot of different roof pitches, and that's something that came up in that meeting. And so we're trying to resolve that as much as possible. But, again, height limitations and just the existing structure also creates limitations to that.
So just to continue to follow on that thread, they made a comment of looking at this perspective about the wainscot from look like the floor line down to the bottom. Is that material changed now, or is that stucco, or is that still some kind of masonry?
That is masonry. That is going to be a brick. And if you look at the photos of the front, which would be on the first page of this package. So I'm trying to see if there's a good photo of this. Yeah, if you look, yeah, right there. So I mean, right now the existing house, you can almost see there's like a line right there where the existing foundation is happening. And again, not wanting to change the front of that house at all. I really feel that the brick is a good addition to the house. It'll just help create a little bit more of a break, and also help resolve some of the issues with the existing stucco lines, which shows time settlement basically.
Right, but right now it's stucco, it's not brick, and you're introducing brick, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then one final question has to do with the dormers as reviewed by the HLC. What I didn't understand in watching the HLC's meeting, the dormers allow light into the attic, or are they going to allow light down into the ceilings of the rooms below?
They're bringing light down into the attic, and a lot of the choice of that is a choice as a design choice, and by the owners of just trying to create what they feel is a more inviting facade, that they want to create a house that is sort of welcoming to the street, and the steep roof line feels a little bit more, maybe protective of the inside. And so it was just really to create a more open and a bit more grand, feeling of, as you approach the house versus the very steep roof line that the existing house has. But those doors do not go into the existing space.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Board Member Colossus, do you have any questions, please? Sorry.
I do. Let's see, my first question is about the proposed plaster finish. So you showed us the color. What about the texture? Is the intent to match the existing, or are you going to retrowel the whole home as part of the project?
The intent is to match the existing. I mean, really the intent is to leave the existing if possible. Right now it has, a bit of a textured, slightly wavy, very, it has a really nice texture to it. So the goal would be to leave that as much as possible. I think that's part of the reason why we looked at adding brick at the underside to also be able to, most of the windows are just going into the existing openings. There's a few windows, you know, as you get along the side. So the existing stucco is, you know, has a bit of texture, is a little bit of nuance. It's not quite like a Santa Barbara style stucco, but the goal is to really leave it as much as possible and repaint. You know, and then as the new windows are put in, all the stucco that's broken away would just get retroweled to match.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the landscape plan again, please. I'd like to understand what's happening in the front relative to this brick wainscot or plinth that's being introduced. So could you walk me through the plantings that are occurring or what is happening up against the home immediately adjacent to that?
So essentially all along the front of the house is just looking at doing a combination of drought tolerant planting. So if we go down to note 5, so I don't misspeak as to what those see the, well, so that just, it's over. So it's basically a mix of drought tolerant lower planting that would sit in front of the brick, but not, you know, be so dense that it blocks it. So it's basically sort of sage, you know, chalk stick, different plants that'll basically create a lower, more colorful balance, but then you'll still see the brick. So the idea is that it's not going to be a large shrubs that are blocking, or right now I think it's like cypress, these sort of cypress bushes that are very sort of dramatic, is to create something that's a little bit more, I guess, in keeping with the Santa Barbara style, and have this, just a, I guess it's also just a softer aesthetic is what they're going for.
Okay, maybe Chairperson Klein could talk us through a little bit how timing the phormium I'm familiar with, the sage, the lion's tail I'm not. Can you speak to the height of that, either Ms. Grinnell or Ms. Klein?
I mean, from my understanding, these plants are all, you know, sort of medium height to low. So like the chalk stick is could be very low, kind of more of a ground cover. So it's sort of an idea of a mix of like low to medium height, so that it just sits in front of the brick, kind of maybe pops up slightly above, but that is a sort of general vibe of it. Obviously, some of these things can get big if they're not maintained, but the idea is that it is all sort of 42 inches and lower.
Okay, I think the lion's tail, I actually, as I said that, I think I recall what that is. It tends to have an orange flower to it, I think. Let's see, can we go back through the elevations, please? I'd like to understand what the finished floor to plate height is of the second floor of the principal residence where you are manipulating the roof line there, because it looks like the house is getting taller, modestly so, but it does look like it's getting taller by roughly a foot as a result of that.
I think so the plate height is, trying to remember exactly, I think is 7'6". I think the way to clarify what's going on with that roof is if we go to the next page and you can see the existing roof. Let's see, oh, sorry, 2 back to a 2.1 there. So you can see that the existing roof it's actually very low, like hit your head low, probably along grid line 3 is about, I'd say 5.5 feet. It's just a very sort of strange layout up there. So the idea was to keep the plate height low at about 7'6", but then recenter it And then, you know, again, we played a lot with the roof pitch and trying to pretty much get it as steep as possible in order for it to really continue to go with the steep roof pitches of the house, but at the same time, be able to maintain a lower overall height because, you know, we're not trying to create a very dominant or high structure. We're just trying to even out that roof essentially.
Okay, so 7'6", and the 6 and 12 pitch does that match the existing pitch of the residence of the existing roof?
The existing residence has several different pitches, but it's a mix of 6 and 12, 4 and 12, and 9 and 12. 9 and 12 being that main gable that runs, you know, basically that big roof line that runs across there. It's just got a lot of different roof pitches. The original roof pitches were a combination of 9 and 12, 6 and 12, and 4 and 12.
Okay. And then the last question is, if I could see a detail, since I think you're asking for final, or well, you're asking for PDA and final. Could you show us a detail of the windows, the head, sill, and jamb, please?
So that is next page. So here you can see the window header. So in sill, yes. So the sill essentially, so what we're looking to do is keep it as in keeping with the existing. So there's no trim along the window, but doing an aluminum cap sill there. So on the window sill type, so you can see aluminum clad sill. So there you can see we're looking to sort of mimic the existing sort of wood piece that projects from the bottom of the windows, but then the rest of the window is set within the stucco. So we have no trim and it's kind of a minimal reveal and then the window sets within that. So it's really pretty much mimicking the existing traditional wood frame window. So if we go down to the detail just a little bit lower from there, it might be a little bit more clear. So you can see, so the bottom being the exterior where you have the window sitting in and then the wood trim is on the interior of the house. So creating a more traditional aesthetic on the inside and then the stucco just really meeting the windows on the exterior, similar to what the existing window is.
And do you have a head detail through that?
Yeah, there is if you go just up on that. So that window head is very similar to the side. So again, no trim on the exterior, and then just having the stucco meet the window frame to create a very sort of thin exterior.
Okay, those were all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
I do. Could you tell me the color of the new gravel, permeable gravel?
Let's see. So let's go back to the landscape. So we are looking to, along that pathway is to, just double check that. Sorry, can you just let me see what note 9 says there? Because I want to just make sure right. Okay, so what they'd like to do is something that's a little bit more of because we're going with the sandstone on the permeable pavers, is to go with something that's not your typical pea gravel, but something with more of a tan color. I think originally we had thought we were going to do a DG pathway, but just because of cost and permeability, we wanted to keep it as permeable as possible. So again, going with something that's a bit more like a sandstone type color. So I would say that one photo, even though it is DG in the photo is really kind of representative of the overall look that we're going for in terms of the, the front landscaping, except for the fact that there's these more significant trees that are there.
Great. And then I was wondering if you could walk me through what the existing brick pattern is, and then the new brick, and then also the new permeable pavers, what patterns those are.
Okay. So the existing brick, you're talking about the landscape bricking. So the existing brick on the front of the house is, as far as I remember, it's just a very like traditional laid brick. I think it's just like a regular bond layout. In terms of the permeable paver layout, if you go to the next, I think it's the last landscape page there. I think we lost the drawings momentarily, but there we go. So that's, we're looking at using the permeable courtyard brick, but going in the sandstone. So it's going to be more in color, in keeping with the color of that the smaller sample there. So right now in their backyard where the permeable paver patio is going, there is an existing flagstone patio, which is not permeable. And so the idea is to remove that and then put in this permeable paving into that area there. And then the entry walkway brick is existing. And so in trying to keep the historic aspects of that walkway, the idea is to really just repair that as much as possible. So that's going to remain. And then in terms of like the hardscape, as you step onto some of the existing patios and the new back patio, the covered areas. If we go to the last page of the rendering sheet. So that would be, if you go down a little bit, there's an example. Basically, we're looking to do a herringbone pattern there with the on the brick decking. So this would be not the permeable decking, but the decking, the current concrete patios or the new concrete patio that's coming off of the kitchen in the back. And then in terms of the pool deck, we're looking to do something that's similar to here, like a stamped concrete. So that's more of like a larger tile, like a 24 by 24, 30 by 30 stamped pattern.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
No, I don't. I think everything is being covered very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
No, I don't think I do. I think they did a good job.
All right, thank you. The only question I have is the dormer vents on the exterior elevations. I notice they're not drawn, but I would assume that they're going to stay there, especially on the front elevation.
Yes, I'm sorry. So those are on the exterior elevations. So if you go, I think, to H2.0, there, yes. So yes, that vent will stay. We're looking at vaulting the ceiling on the second story. So we'll be using like an Icynene insulation up there. So that will not be vented.
Okay, thank you. That's actually my only question. So moving on to comments. So Board Member Sweeney, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I have several. But I want to preface all my comments based on the fact that ordinarily I see a lot of things, Ms. Grinnell, on this set of drawings that I would be in a position to support you returning before we give you project design approval. However, I'm not going to do that. Given the unfortunate circumstances where you were sent sideways to the HLC, I think at this point, you've spent enough time in this process, and I will be supporting a project design approval and final, even though I believe there are some significant issues yet need resolution. So if you would keep track of my comments, they're for your consideration as the architect, but they're not binding with any notion of holding you up from proceeding, given how you had to deal with the Historic Landmarks Commission process. First of all, can we go to the drawing that shows the back porch? Yeah, there you go. I suspect that the span of that deck structurally can be accommodated as you've drawn it. But given the nature of the architectural style of the home, I would want to see an interim column, or maybe two close columns to each, to the right and to the left. I think that's more in keeping with the language of the architectural style that you're emulating with this house. So that's just a comment. Let's go to the pool house drawing just for a quick second. Or the pool shelter, I think you call it. Again, you know, certainly structurally that can be accommodated probably as you've drawn, but I think it's a little awkward in terms of, again, the style. So I would encourage perhaps some more columns. I know, you know, all of this is a consideration of cost, but given the expenditure you're doing in this home, it might look better if you had a rhythm of columns at the corners, just given the style that you're proposing for that structure. And then can we go to the front elevation? You had a drawing, I believe, the front elevation along with some photographs of adjoining or some houses that show the color.
Yeah, that would be on the second page of the renderings.
Maybe that's not the same drawing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, maybe that'll work. Let's see. First of all, the dormers, I believe, would have worked better had you done, instead of a pair, you had done 3. In other words, 1 to the left over the bedroom, that front bedroom, and then 2 over that portion of the house, so that there's an odd number, 3. I think because of the nature of this house not being perfectly symmetrical, by doing 2, you're kind of trying to drive it to be symmetrical, but it never will be. And so by adding the dormer, a third dormer on the right, I think that balances the whole composition much better. And then following up on the HLC comments, the dormers either need to have awnings, or not, excuse me, senior moment. What's that?
Shutters?
No. Shutter, yeah, shutters. Need to have shutters on that white space on each side on the dormers, or the dormers need to be narrower. And then I think, been in that house with those big trees that are in the front yard, that house is in shadow a good deal of the day, and it makes those rooms really dark. I remember the bedroom on the left gets really dark. It, I think, would be better if you're going to spend the money to do those dormers, then spend the money to get some of that natural light down into the rooms below. You know, if you're going to go through all that trouble to get them built on there, and they're only doing the attic, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think you ought to take advantage of that and get the light down into those lower rooms. And then let's look at the pictures on the right, the photographs on the right. You're in your discussion of the color of the house. I'm assuming none of those are in the San Roque area. Am I correct?
No, they're not.
Okay. So in looking, I pulled out my Benjamin Moore fan deck. In fact, it's the historical fan deck from Benjamin Moore. And I looked at the dove color. I think that's too white. I certainly agree with your client's notion of having a much lighter house. But two things bother me. One is I just saw earlier today over on the Mesa, two houses that are doing the color scheme that you're proposing, black windows, white body. And they kind of work on the Mesa side of the world over in the ocean, but they're really stark. There's one right on Cliff Drive, and then there's one on, I think it's Palisades. And this is kind of a new, it's like gray, everybody wants to have their gray house. I think the second point is it's too stark for this street. The two houses towards San Roque are traditional kind of beige, terracotta colors. The house to the right, as I believe, is a grayer color. There aren't any houses close by in San Roque that have this stark white color. And then across the street, you have the church and the school, and they're the kind of, Spanish, quasi-white, antique white. I don't think it needs to be antique white, but I'd like you to have your client look at something called China white, which is in their antique palette. There's also a color that's a little bit more, has a little more blue in it. Wickham gray might be a consideration. And what was the other one? Stone wash. There's a winter ice, but I think that has so much blue in it. So I think, I certainly agree the house needs to be lighter, but this stark white is just too light in my view. But again, I'm not going to hold up your approval because of that, or propose to hold up your approval. And then the other thing that it shows me with these photographs on the right is some of the proportions of your windows don't feel right. The three little windows that are up on the new addition on the second floor, and I know that HLC made a lot of comments about that second floor addition, but I think the thing that's bothering me is the proportionality of those three windows. It seems like the windows ought to be proportioned a little closer to, I think it's the second picture down on the right. There's a small window up what I assume is a bathroom or a staircase that's more vertical proportionally to the width. Yeah, I think that proportion window being small windows would work better as a pair of three than rather than the square ones that you're showing. And also if you could maybe come back out and look at those four photographs again together. Thank you. Go down to the third photograph and you see the proportions again of the windows are much less square in terms of being casement windows. They're more vertical in relationship to the proportion of the width. And because they're traditional, almost like Marvin windows, they're exactly like my windows. I have the same Marvin windows you're proposing, is that the proportions work better there, and that the middle style where the two awnings come together is thicker. I think considering that, going back to your front elevation on the windows that are on the living room, if we can go back to that elevation, please. Yeah, so I think it would work better certainly on that other set of bedroom windows that's in the gable end on the front elevation. Dividing that into three rather than into two would work better in my view. And then the window on the right in the living room, having a 1-2-1 proportion, I think would work better. A little closer to the original window that's there now. It's just a proportion thing that's bothering me. So again, you can take that for what you think it's worth as a designer. But all in all, I think this house should get project design approval and move forward. And it's unfortunate you lost a month fooling around with HLC. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Member Sweeney. Board Member Kalas, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, I do. Let's see, I concur with Mr. Sweeney's comments about a darker color for the plaster or for the stucco, as well as a bit more verticality to the windows in the dormers and the second story area. Those were comments that I actually had written down for myself. I am not a proponent of the masonry plinth. I think for all the discussion there is about trying to retain the nature of the home, I think that's divergent from the nature of the home. And so I would not support that. I would want to see a head detail that better reflects a condition that is more similar to the existing head condition of the windows. And a specific note on the plans to match existing. And let's see. I'm also concerned about the guardrails a little bit. I guess my tendency is to want to see more of a wood guardrail than something a little bit more heavy, with a little bit more stout, something that I'd like to see the finials or the balustrades have a little bit more content to them. I mean, I understand sort of this light aesthetic that you're potentially going for. But I think there's a real danger without some specific details on the drawings to just move this through as it is, especially in the back. I think it could be looked at more closely. And thought I had one other comment here. The only other comment that I had is that the element that it appears as though you're introducing to the right of the home as you're looking at the front elevation, it looks like it's a little sort of overhead walkway portal, for lack of a better way of explaining it, that comes off the right of the home. I'd be interested to see that reflect sort of the detailing on the front porch a little bit better. Those are my comments. Oh, it is? Okay, because I drove by today and I didn't see it in the picture that I took. So perhaps it was hidden behind some landscaping. I apologize.
It's really hidden there, but it is, I couldn't wait.
Okay.
Board
Those are all my
Member
comments.
Chair Miller, if I could interrupt quickly,
Yes,
I
please.
apologize. I just wanted to confirm, sorry, I'm a little late. I wanted to confirm with board members Kolas and Klein that they reviewed the video plans and minutes from our November 8th, 2020 meeting. And
Yes.
I'm getting nods. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Are you done, Ms. Kalas?
Yeah, those
Okay.
were all my comments.
Great, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes. I think the mass and the bulk and the scale of the architecture is nicely done. It's an improvement to what's existing. The sandstone mocha pavers, I don't think fits with the rest of the hardscape. It's not really a sandstone color. From what I looked, it's kind of a brown color. And I think more of a gray tone would work. And as well as the pattern, I think, more of a brick size for the paver, maybe a herringbone or a running bond to match the other brick would be more appropriate. And the gravel color as well, maybe something with a little more gray. The Hanley gold has some gray to it. It feels like it would go better with the new concrete and new brick. And I'll just comment on the plants. I think the plant selections are fine. Nothing should get over 4 feet from what I saw, and it's all low water. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I have one big comment. I think I concur with Ms. Board Member Sweeney that I think the house is basically trying to be symmetrical when it's not. And with the 4 examples that were presented showing the contrast of the white and the dark. Those worked because the windows here are just kind of like they were put there just because those are spaces to put square windows. These windows don't do this house any justice or any pizzazz. They're just there to maybe look out of instead of giving it some character. Windows, and maybe you're just doing it, matching the windows, but the 3 windows at the top on the 2nd story definitely changed because this house is not, it shouldn't be a symmetrical house, and you're trying to, and then adding windows that just, I don't know if it's my place to redesign the whole house, but this house with a little bit of change of the windows and the dimensions of well, not so much the dimensions of the windows, but the style of the windows could do this house a lot more. You give it a lot more character, and yeah, that's my comment. Other than that, I like the size, bulk, and scale. Windows could change the house drastically and make it a little bit more. I won't use that word. I want to stay within our guidelines. This is a guideline comment, not a personal comment. I want to state that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please? Mr. Ziegler, are you with us? I'll get back to him if he gets back on. I think all the comments are really good. I agree with Board Member Sweeney and Colossus in particular. You know, with these comments, our client is requesting design approval and final, so we have a choice of whether we want the client to come back to us for one more look, or do we want to grant final approval with our comments strictly being suggestions. So I don't know if Mr. Ziegler can speak or not. Not hearing him.
Chair Miller, I don't see him in the meeting anymore, so I'm not sure if he'll try to rejoin us, but he's not here at this time.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, if I may, just to run over the options with you as you just outlined. It seems to me that we have 3 different choices.
Yes.
One is to, as I stated in my comments, just to go ahead and give them project design and final approval, maybe with a few comments, and let them go to the building department. The second choice in my mind is a motion with comments for them to come back before we give them project design approval. And then the third choice is perhaps to give them project design approval with comments, but give them project design approval and have them come back for final. That would go over details as Ms. Colossus was outlining about windows. It might give them opportunity to make any changes that we suggested without requiring them to come back for project design approval and final. So that's 3 different approaches that we might want to take. Maybe there's a 4th, not sure.
Mr. Sweeney, may I suggest you entertain a motion, and let's see if we get it seconded.
I'd much rather have someone else do it. I'm happy to do it, but if I can get somebody else to do it, I'd prefer
Okay.
that.
All right. Would someone like to entertain a motion, please?
I will make an attempt here,
Okay, thank you.
and I will probably need a lot of help. So I would like to make a motion that the project be given project design approval and continued to the full board and continued to return to the full board for final with the following comments. Oh, I guess I need to make our neighborhood preservation findings
No, you
as
can make your
shown on the
comments.
screen.
Ms. Claus,
You can make your
Ms. Scott.
comments first.
yeah, I think the easiest to make your comments first
Mhm.
and then do the preservation findings.
Okay. So if I could see the exterior elevations while I make my comments, it would be very helpful. The comments would be that the applicant reconsider the exterior stucco finish color to be something less stark, and that a note be included in the plans that the texture of the plaster finish is to match existing, that the brick plinth that's being introduced be removed, or that be considered removed, that the head detail of the windows better reflect consistency with the existing head condition, that the applicant consider the symmetry of the dormers as presented and the possibility of introducing asymmetry to the dormers with the addition of a dormer on the right of the front elevation, that the applicant consider the nature of the windows, the geometry of the windows, and consider more of a geometry to the windows, especially on the second floor and dormer elements. That change in color of the gravel and pavers be considered to be more of a gray tone, that the pavers a smaller or more diminished size, and a pad that's more reflective of existing architecture, and that the nature of the guardrail also be considered.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Now you can add your preservation findings, Ms. Claus.
Well, did we get a second first? Oh, sorry,
No, no,
you're
no,
right.
it's all part
You're
of
right.
the same motion, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Sorry.
So included in the motion would be that the project does meet the neighborhood preservation findings, both in terms of consistency and appearance, compatibility, and the quality of the architecture and materials. And that would be the end of my motion. There are no trees being removed, so I don't think we have any problem with that. And yes, it also meets the health, safety, and welfare and good neighborhood guidelines, and it does not appear to create any problems with public use.
Thank you. Very good.
Now that's the end of my motion.
May I have a second?
I will second it if Ms. Claus considers some additional wording. I think it's important because the FAR is more than 85%, that we put into the motion that the board recognize that it's at 90%, and that it has an ADU, and that we considered that not being significant in approval of giving this project design approval.
Do you
Okay.
agree?
I'm fine with that. I take no exception to that.
Okay, thank you. I'll second it then.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
All right, I'll go ahead and start with Chair Miller,
Yes?
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Klas,
Yes?
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes,
All right. The motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And there's a 10-day
you.
appeal process. Thank you, Ms. Grinnell.
Thanks.
Moving on to item 2, 920 Alston Road. Project is requesting design approval. This proposal is a 31 square foot addition interior remodel, which includes new doors and windows to an existing single family residence. The project also includes replacement of the existing slate tile roof with a new metal standing seam roof. The proposal is 2,625 square feet of development on a 21,174 square foot lot. Is 56% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings. Mr. Sweeney, did we have any minutes for this project?
Mr. Chair, I think this is a new item, so we could go directly to the presentation.
Oh, I apologize. All right, please. Ms. Burkhardt, do you have any comments? Sorry about that.
I don't for this project. I was just going to let you know it is a new item, so.
It is no. Do we have a representative for this project, please?
We
Hello.
do.
Can you guys hear me?
Mr. Yes, perfect. There we go.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Mr.
Thank you.
York.
Hello, board members. I will be presenting this project today. My name is Zachary Ulrich. We've got 920 Alston Road, a very small addition happening underneath the existing roof overhang at the back portion of the house, which would be south facing. We have, like the scope of work said, the replacement of the existing roof with a metal standing seam roof. We're replacing some of the finished materials in the front of the house just because they're damaged and water and termite damage that compromises their integrity and the aesthetic appeal of the house. Our new proposed board and bat siding would be matching the existing boarding bat that's currently on the house. The house is a little mismatched. It has lots of different materials going on, so we're trying to just kind of make a little more cohesiveness to the exterior look of the house. So you can see from the site plan here, the area of the addition there, 31 square foot. It's just to give the kitchen a little more breathing room. That's all it is. There's an existing beam there that we're just pushing out to. So not really any structural work there. And then you can see the dashed line there represents the existing roof overhang. So yeah, that addition would be happening underneath that overhang. We have pictures of the neighboring houses. The addition is not in any view of the neighbor's house or the front of the property along the street. The house is very well protected by the fact that it's sort of set down and there's lots of existing trees and whatnot on the neighboring properties shielding the house from view, which I guess would the major factor with saying that is that the new proposed roof being a different material, it's in my opinion not impeding on anybody's view. We're also not changing the construction of the roof. It'd be the same slope, be the same roof overhang, same framing, all of that. So if we go to page 4, you can see the demo plan where we're removing several windows and doors. We're removing that slightly awkward exterior door there to the kitchen breakfast area next to the fireplace. And then pretty much most of the windows and doors throughout are being replaced with an exception to the front entry door is going to remain. And then the garage storage area I don't believe we're replacing any of the windows and doors in that area. If we go to page 5, you can see the proposed floor plan. I've highlighted the area of the addition, and you can see it just brings a little more breathing room to that kitchen so that we can get an island in there, and there's lots of flow around that new island. And then if we go to page 6, you can see the roof plan. Like I said, pitch isn't changing, framing isn't changing. We're just redoing the roof there. And then page 7, we have some exterior elevation views, which are colored so you can see what the overall aesthetic of the house will be. The color of this in the rendering obviously isn't quite correct. It's not that white of a material paint choice. We have a color board that shows you the accurate color. Those chimneys are existing brickwork on those. Those aren't changing. And then, yeah, new windows and doors throughout, except of course the garage, like I stated before. And I think I already said this, but the board and bat is existing in several portions of the house, so we're just trying to match that. And page 8 would be the other 2 elevations. And if you look at the east view, you can kind of get a sense of where we did the addition. It's right there next to that tall, narrow window there. And yeah, that about does it. If we could go to the color board real quick. Here are the color samples. We're proposing to match the siding and stucco with the same Dunn Edwards white heat color, which is like a grayish white. And then the roof and gutters would be, it's called zinc gray, but it's kind of like a greenish earth tone, which is really nice. You know, it's not that stark black standing seam that just really, you know, makes your eyes bleed. And then the windows are a black color. And those are Sierra Pacific, very nice windows. And that about does it for my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did we get any public comment?
Thank you. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara. We have not received any written correspondence for this item.
Thank you. And there are still no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you, Chair Miller, for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bring it back to the board for questions. Board Member Sweeney, do you have any questions, please?
Just 2 quick questions, I think. You have gutters. I assume you have downspouts somewhere. Those are not showing yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then quickly on your colors, you showed us the body color, but on your renderings, it appears that there's a couple of doors in the garage door that look like they're yellow. Is that the color?
Yeah, so that's an existing garage door. It's not accurately rendered. We have some pictures. I don't see them up there in the presentation block, but I did submit photos.
So are they going to be painted yellow, or am I
No, that's not accurately represented in the rendering. It,
oh,
you know,
okay.
that,
So what
the color
color
of that. Yeah.
So what color will they be?
The garage door is not changing.
So its color is white right now?
Do we have the photos? I don't see them there.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering what color is. That was all my questions.
I am working to get the photos uploaded for our plans manager. I apologize. It'll take a couple more minutes and we'll have them available.
Let me see if I can just open it just to answer your question with a, you guys can proceed. I'll try and find them myself to see if I can answer.
All right, great. Board Member Kalas, do you have any questions, please?
Yes. What type of windows does the existing home have?
They're very old. They're metal, and they're most likely single pane. They do have some dividing lights, and so we're kind of matching that aesthetic. I wish we had the photos.
Are they an old like steel type of window, or
That's
I mean,
what
are they metal? Are they wood?
They're not wood.
They're not wood.
I don't believe they are. There they are. So this is the front driveway looking at the house. That's the neighboring house. And then if we scroll through down one more. That's the neighboring house. So they have a standing seam roof as well. That's why we tried to show that. So there's a, you can see the existing window there. It's like an aluminum, it appears to me. It's an aluminum window with dividing lights. And so, yeah.
Okay, and you're proposing, the type of window that you're proposing is
an aluminum clad with divided lights as well. But it's just a, you know, a different color. It's not that clear aluminum color.
in the darker color.
Right.
Is it a true divided light, or is it a dual glaze that has a simulated divided light with a filler?
Let me look at the window schedule. So we have a direct glaze. If you go up to the light or grill pattern in the window schedule, and then so if you go like to the top left-hand corner to the light glaze pattern and zoom in there, you can see. We might have to zoom in a little bit more.
Putty SDL profile, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I'm not familiar with the way they formatted this window schedule, so I'm sorry I can't tell you exactly how that button is constructed.
Okay, and are the front doors that you're showing on the residence, are those the existing
Correct.
front doors? It's a very detailed front door. Okay, those are my only questions.
Yeah, and for the purposes of creating a exterior rendering, you know, those the front door doesn't match the existing perfectly. It's just to give you an idea.
Okay, and then the rendering as it's illustrating the windows is not showing all of the cut-ups, is that correct? It's not showing all of the divided lights? Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so the large window in front has no lights, for example, but the small window
It has
to the right
four
of the front
vertical
door
lights.
does?
So it's a single fixed window with 4 vertical lights, and then the smaller windows have horizontal lights.
and that's a triple?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Just one. It seems like you're not adding any new landscaping or removing any trees. Everything's
That's
gonna
correct.
remain.
Yeah, we're not touching the landscaping. There's some more photos in that set that show you kind of how it's pretty abundant, and there's a lot of existing landscaping that's really nice. So we're not proposing any at this time.
Understood. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, any questions, please?
Yeah, I have a question about the roof. I don't object to, and I realize that one, there's a lot of slate roofs along Austin Road. There's a lot of houses built in the 50s, and they were, during that time, a lot of houses in that area were roofed with slate. But this house is now proposed to have a metal roof. You're changing basically the whole design of the house. That take a small house and change the whole idea of the whole house and change it to a metal roof, and you drive now drive by and you look at a metal roof, which is the major thing you see at that roof, because it sits down low, and all you look at when you see from the road, if the landscape stays where it is right now or gets any thick, you won't see it at all. Another question. I thought a slate roof lasts forever, and all of a sudden you're taking a roof that lasts forever and replacing it with a metal roof that's expensive. The slate roof was expensive itself, and now we're taking that all off. What do you do with recycling?
Do you have a question, Cal?
What? I'm just fishing. Sorry. I just wondered. A question from Mr. Ehrlich. Is that your intentions to change the style of the whole house with a metal roof?
It sounds like an ontological or philosophical discussion about architectural evolution, but yeah, I think the intent is to change the overall aesthetic of the house.
I can't object. It's still within our guidelines. There are several houses. In fact, we just approved a big house just to the east of there that's got a huge metal roof.
Right.
And
I think if we could go back to the picture of the front driveway, you can see, like I stated, you can't really even see the house from the road. I mean, you can, but yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, either, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, I'm wondering what that red brick wall is, and are you keeping that? Because I think I agree with Mr. Motisha. You're changing the style of the house, but that red brick doesn't fit in with the new style.
Where do you see red brick?
One of the pictures he showed us with the windows.
That red brick?
There.
So that's an existing chimney that we're not touching. Like I said, we're
Yeah,
leaving.
it just doesn't look right. Yeah, it doesn't look right with the new style of the house. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you. Do I have any questions? I don't think I do, so I'm going to move it into comments. Board Member Sweeney, do you have comments, please?
Yes, this is one of these projects you always scratch your head why it's showing up in front of the full board, when on occasion we get these kind of applications that go right to consent, because all they're doing is putting a new roof in and changing windows out. So it's always perplexing to me why staff decides to move this one to the full board. et cetera. But be that as it may, I think the rendering we were looking at, those two chimneys are actually the old brick color, correct?
It's more of a
Not the
red.
yellow that-
Yeah, it's more of a red color in reality than, you know.
Okay, so it's
soft-
not this kind of yellow color we see. Okay. My comment is, we had a house further down on Alston Road, or just off Alston Road, that actually got appealed to the city council because the applicants had a single-story house. They wanted a standing seam metal roof, and we denied it. And they appealed it, and the city council accepted the standing seam metal roof. So, even though we have an ordinance against shiny surfaces, we don't get the same outcome when it gets to city council. And we have a house immediately next door, as you recall. We spent a lot of time on that house next door. It has a standing seam roof, and the construction is being completed. And currently, yes, you can see it from the road, but as it grows in, you probably won't. This house, you might even see more, even though it's got a big hedge and so forth in front. So I don't see anything objectionable here. I don't object to the window style, et cetera. In my view, we ought to give it project design approval and let it go to consent for final. Thank you.
All right, Board Member Kalas, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, I think it's a simple project and I don't want to, pick it apart. I guess it's a little disconcerting to me that we're looking at drawings that are not reflective of the color palette of the project. I mean, when I look at what's on the screen right now, it looks to me like there's, sandstone chimneys, there's, old traditional, almost tiki-esque front doors, which clearly it doesn't have. It looks like it has 2 slab painted blue doors from the photos I saw. So I'm, I don't want to pick the project apart, but it troubles me that we are being asked to approve something and approve drawings that are not reflecting the actual conditions. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
I think that it's a nice update to the current architecture, and it feels appropriate with the neighbor. With the roof, you can see, you can't really see the project from the street as well, so it feels appropriate to me. The new AC unit, I'd like to see that screened with some landscape would be my comment as far as the landscape. Make sure that that new AC unit isn't visible when you drive in. And those are all my comments.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, any comments, please?
I agree with Board Member Kalas. I would like to see it come back or give a design approval now and come back with final consent with some elevations that look exactly like what they're proposing with the colors. And this is a little stark right here, and it doesn't reflect what it probably will be when it's finished. I'm on the consent calendar right now, and I would like to see it in front of us instead of having to wait to go back to the full board, which it doesn't need because it's a very simple project. That's my comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please? Okay, I got to note that the existing roof is concrete, not slate. Concrete roof shingles. Okay, since I'm not hearing anything from Mr. Ziegler, I'll go ahead and make my comments.
Sorry, I'll make my comment. I was on mute. Yeah, I'm okay. I made a comment about the chimney, and I'll repeat it, that I don't think that chimney goes well at all with the new style of the house, and I think you should do something like putting a steel chimney or something that's a little bit different than that red brick to match the new style of the house. And I know this is a simple project. They probably don't want to do it, but I think that would make sense. That's my comment.
Thank you. Okay, the comments I have, this house, based on the existing style and the concrete shingles, lets me think it was built probably in the late 60s, early 70s. So that's kind of the vernacular of the house of that time. My experience with standing metal seam roof on single-story residential homes like this looks very industrial and is not an appeal look. I know that this is a big, what you're pushing for is something that that's all in style now, but I think it's awkward and not really doesn't complement the existing home. And I tend to agree with Board Member Kloss that what you're showing us is not representative of what the house is actually going to look like. And with Mr. Ziegler struggling with the brick chimneys, he's correct. And so, but I would say it's because the roof is not correct. The roof, it's a small little, it's a kind of a small branch home. And for me, standing metal seam roof is a very industrial look, and it's not welcoming. It's not a, it's supposed to be a welcoming, homey, charming home, and it's not. It looks like it's a home trying to be the part of something of a factory. I don't know. That's my feeling on this. And I do know that we have other homes in the neighborhood that have the standing metal seam roof. And Fred is correct. We did get appealed, and the city council said, look, they want a standing metal seam roof, let them have it. So that's kind of where we're at. But as far as overall aesthetic, I think it's trying to make something it's not. I'm not saying it's just the style. You're fighting with a already developed style and trying to make it something it's not. So those are my only comments about that. Anyway, so with that being said, we have someone who would like to entertain a motion. You're here for project design approval, I take it? No, for design approval. Would someone like to entertain a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for project design approval.
Okay.
For final to be determined at consent calendar. And then we make the following neighborhood preservation findings. That the project does not disturb any of the existing natural topography, that the building scale is not being changed because of the small addition, that the general consistency and appearance is in compatibility with adjacent properties that have already been approved with standing seam metal roofs, that the general size, bulk, and scale is not being changed and therefore is still compatible with the general neighborhood, that the quality of architectural materials is appropriate, and that the final color selection for those materials will be presented at the consent calendar for final. There are no significant trees being altered or removed as a result of this project. That the general health, safety, and welfare comes under the purview of this board is protected and preserved. That good neighborhood guidelines have been followed, and the project does not disturb any public views. That's
All
my
right,
motion.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. May I have a second, please?
I have a question.
Yes.
Second. Mr. Sweeney, I was listening. Did you include the Board Member Kloss's request that the drawings look like what they're proposing in that proposal within the neighborhood findings, or was it a separate request in your proposal?
I did not. If you'd like me to include wording to the effect that when the project returns to consent calendar, whatever renderings are presented, that the colors match the intended final application of colors.
Thank you. And I think there was a,
Did we get a second, Mr. Miller?
Yeah. Are you going to second it, Mr. Joe?
okay, yes, I will second. I remember there was no second. Yes, I will second that.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
All right, I'll go ahead and start with Chair Miller,
No.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Clark,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yeah.
And Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank
you, everyone.
I'm sorry, Chair Miller, if you could state your reason for voting no, please.
I feel that the suggested architectural changes are not consistent with the quality of craftsmanship and materials that should be expected.
Thank you.
Oh, and there's a Tyndale appeal process. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 347 Salida del Sol. This is a new item, a proposal for 542 square foot first story addition and a new 720 square foot second story addition to an existing 1,604 square foot single story residence, as well as a 78 square foot reduction to the existing 478 square foot garage. The proposed 3,266 square foot of development on a 10,935 square foot lot is 85% of the maximum guideline FAR. Project design approval is requested. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings. Hello, Mr. Hornbuckle.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Hornbuckle with the Cornell Collective. I do believe that Aaron is on the line, the homeowner. Aaron, are you there?
I just admitted him to the meeting as a panelist.
Oh, great. There she is.
Or her, sorry.
That's okay. You guys, I think you're muted.
Here we go. Good?
You're good. There you go. So Aaron and Ryan are the homeowners, and they just wanted to give a quick introduction before I present the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to meet all of you. We've been watching from the sidelines, an interesting process for sure. And thank you, Jeff, for working with us and putting this all together. We're new to the area, although it's been over a year. We have been in the midst of COVID. So we haven't really gotten to experience Santa Barbara, but the topic of COVID as well has pushed us to considering our forever home being a little bit bigger now that we're both sort of required. He's fully required and I'm partially required to work from home. So a lot of this project is based on us having a little bit more flexibility with the new kind of work environment. We also have two twin two-year-old boys, which is a feat to be reckoned with as well. And so we're looking to make sure that they've got adequate space, and we also plan to expand our family. So Jeff's done a really good job of helping us make the most of our kind of change in lifestyle and situations for the foreseeable future. And we're really interested in preserving a lot of the land and the yard that came with the property. We have a big garden built. We have about 32 different varietals of fruits and vegetables planted. So we hope to be sustainable in that. So that's why up was our opportunity. So look forward to hearing your guys' feedback. And again, really appreciate the time and Jeff going to work for us and anything else.
No, we're just excited to be part of the community, and like we're excited to, hopefully expand this to make our forever home. So thank you guys for your consideration.
Yep.
Great, thanks guys. And then they'll stay online for questions if there are any questions once you guys get to that portion of the process here. So if we want to zoom in on the vicinity map there, just to give you guys a quick orientation. So you can see there the project site is located at the corner of Salida del Sol and Cliff Drive. and south is essentially, due south is essentially, straight down on the page. So the house does have kind of a southern orientation, directly down on the page. Let's go to the next sheet, please. So the parcel is just under 10,000 square feet, and it's kind of an interesting parcel. I'll show you once we get to the site plan on the next couple of sheets. The house was built in the late 50s, 59, early 60s. It's part of the Pacific Estates Tract, which is this whole several block development up on the mesa. So just to quickly give you guys some orientation here. So starting up in the left-hand corner, this is the front of the house looking up the driveway on Salida del Sol. Next image is looking basically straight on at the house, looking from the west. And then the next image over closer towards Cliff Drive, looking toward the corner. So the street to the right there is Cliff Drive. So that is the corner of Salida del Sol and Cliff. And you can see that big hedge that runs along Cliff Drive and then wraps the corner at Salida del Sol. It does have a block, CMU block and wood fence wall buried behind that hedge. So the next row of photos, moving down to the left. So this is the view looking across Cliff Drive toward the house. You can see the peak of the roof sticking up there. View number 5 to the right is the north, let's see, the, sorry, I'm having to reorient myself, northeast corner of the house. So the back of the house there on the right, and then the large side yard on the left. Next image is looking at the rear of the house and the kind of the backyard. Next photo down. So this is looking from the back of the house towards the backyard, the rear of the property to the east. And then the other corner of the house this is at the, let's see, southeast corner of the house. And so that view is basically looking towards Salida del Sol on the other side of the fence there. Next page, please. So this is just to give you some context. So the photo in the upper left, view 09, is looking from the house across Cliff Drive to the houses that are set up several feet up above Cliff. View 10 is the house directly to the south of Aaron and Ryan. They're immediate next door neighbors. View 11 over is the house across Salida del Sol. So this is at the corner of Salida del Sol and Payeras Street, if I'm saying that correctly. And then the next photo is the house across Payeras Street on the other corner. And the next few images are just examples of houses kind of within the neighborhood that have done similar to what we're proposing, where they're building out the garage into the existing driveway. So you can go to the next one, which you can see the garage there, and then a second story addition. And then the two images below are on Salida del Sol as well, which I believe you guys have seen recently at 242 Salida del Sol. Next slide, please, or next sheet, please. Okay, so if you want to zoom in on the aerial in the upper right-hand corner there. So this is an interesting parcel. So you see where the lot line kind of curves in and sort of divides that upper strip from the main property. So that's a separate lot that wasn't part of this lot when it was first developed in the late 50s, early 60s. In the late 70s, I believe it was included as part of this parcel as lot 2 of 347 Salida del Sol. And the purpose of it was to apparently reduce noise and visual pollution off of Cliff Drive and to reduce vandalism at the corner. And the purpose of it was for, it said for fruit trees and for parking of, boats and or trailers. So it's kind of an interesting, parcel configuration that we have. So if we want to scroll down to the existing floor plan below. So just briefly, the house has, you can see it's got the kitchen, living, dining kind of in the middle, 2 bedrooms to the south below there, bedroom in the upper left-hand corner, and then an office, and then obviously the 2-car parking garage, which is located off of the driveway off of Salida del Sol. And then we've got existing elevations for reference there. To the left, if you want to look at those just briefly. Next sheet, please. So if we go to the floor plan and the first floor plan in the bottom right. So this is the proposed first floor plan. So the existing garage we're proposing to convert into a family room, which is there, and then build a new 2-car parking garage in the space where the current driveway is. And as Aaron and Ryan mentioned, one of the goals of this project is to preserve as much of the outside space as possible. So they really wanted to take advantage of the existing driveway and all of the space that is there. The majority of the house, kitchen, living, dining space remains the same. And then we've got we're kind of reconfiguring the bathroom so that we can get that stair in up to the 2nd floor. And so, obviously this creates kind of a little forecourt, entry court, between the new 2-car garage and family room into the main entrance of the house, which we think can be kind of a cool little space as you enter the house. Let's scroll up to the proposed 2nd floor. So that stair takes you up essentially to the master bedroom, bathroom, and master closet on the right there. So that is essentially built over the new 2-car garage. And then to the left is what we're calling a loft, but that's kind of, designed to be a, workstation, kind of a mix of different uses. If there is a new baby to the family, that can happen there, as well as, home office, etc. So if we scroll over to the proposed elevation, starting with the east elevation. So this is the view, the Salida del Sol elevation. So you can see the existing garage, which would be converted to the family room on the right. And then the new 2-car garage, excuse me, and the master bedroom on the left there. And so, the intent is to, match the existing roof lines, overhangs, detailing. The existing house does have a shiplap wood wainscot at the front portion of the house. So the idea is to, use, something similar on the addition to help kind of break down that mass and add some detailing and some materiality to it. Whether that's painted or stained, we're not sure exactly of, but that is kind of the design intent there. Scroll down to the next elevation, which is the south elevation. So again, the new 2-car garage to the right there. Salida del Sol is to the right, backyard to the left in this orientation. The new master bedroom and bathroom up above on the right. That new stair up to the 2nd floor in the middle, and then that loft space to the left. Scroll down to the next elevation. So this is the west elevation looking from the back of the house. And then finally, the north elevation at the bottom. So you can just see the addition beyond the existing house there. And the existing roof pitch there on the right, the tallest portion is 16 foot 10 inches. And the ridge line of the second floor addition at the highest point there to the left over the master bathroom or bedroom, excuse me, is about 6.5 feet above that, just for reference. So I think with that, unless Aaron and Ryan, you guys have anything to add, I think that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that we can.
All right, thank you. And welcome to Santa Barbara. All right, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written correspondence for this item?
Thank you, Barbara and board members. We did receive written correspondence from Susan E., and it was distributed to the board before this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you, Chair Miller, for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, just go down the list. Board member Motisha, Sweeney, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, could we go back to the Google Earth or aerial photograph, please, for a second? I want to zero in on the letter that came from Susan E. Question to Ms. Burkhart. Was there any last name associated with that letter, or was just the initial E?
Not that I'm aware of. Mary, was there a last name that you have?
There was no last name given. It was just Susan E.
Okay, thank you. So again, that address from that letter, I think, is the house directly across Cliff Drive from Salida del Sol. And you had a photograph, I think it was photograph 9 or 7, taken, I think, from the corner directly across the street. Yeah, up in the upper left there. Can we blow that up a little bit? Thank you. So that photograph, was that taken from the middle of the street or the sidewalk?
This was, I believe, oh gosh, I want to say I was on the sidewalk, but I was not at the corner. If you actually, if you scroll down, I've got a little key map that shows, I think, where I was taking the photo from. Yeah, so it was slightly down from the corner there, you can see.
Okay. All right. So one of the things, just to be clear, should the writer of the letter be concerned, we are not allowed, unless I'm told differently by Ms. Burkhart or someone else. We've been told that we're not allowed to guarantee anybody's private view or anybody's window. We certainly have to look at public views. The public view down Salida del Sol is certainly within our purview, and the public view generally from Cliff Drive is within our purview. So I just wanted to make sure I understood where these photographs were taken. Let me go to if we go to the second floor plan, please. I think that has roof and floor plan on it. So in relationship to the site, north is where Cliff Drive is, and to the right is where the street is, Salida del Sol. So you have one window near the loft that's directly across from the staircase, and no windows at the loft side because that's embedded down into the pitch of the existing roof. Is that correct? By reading that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and the intent is that north wall would be, built-ins and cabinetry, and we really want to focus the view, to the south.
And you're indicating on that drawing what appears to be a a bifold window that opens completely out to the atmosphere, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then if we could go to the site plan. Do you have a site plan that shows the house, the plan of the house immediately to the south?
I do not, but it does show, on the aerial photograph, the aerial map.
Maybe we can go to the aerial photograph. I'm just trying to understand where the relationship of what you're proposing is to the house to the south. Okay, so the house to the south is in alignment, almost in true fashion of how they built these houses when they were done as a tract. So it's just, the shape is repeated from the house you're dealing with is repeated to the south. Okay, thank you. I think that covers generally my questions for the moment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Kalas, do you have any questions, please?
There's a photo shown at the beginning of your presentation of the front of the home or the side of the home. I think it was taken from the east elevation, but it was on the right-hand side of the photo. It showed some things that were kind of stashed against the house.
The one right in the middle.
I experienced a little bit of a lag when the drawings come up between, for some reason, Fred gets his information faster than me, I've noticed. So bear with me on the pause. It's not the one we are looking at. Maybe we could zoom out for a second. It's the lower middle one, yes. Can you tell me what the box is on the right-hand side there? The black box, is that just a storage container for goods outdoors or?
Yeah, it's kids' toys.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was an AC unit or, okay, thank you very much. And then, yeah, I am interested in understanding more the relationship between the balconies or what's shown as a pretty large window on the south side as it relates to the south downhill neighbor. Is there any section cut that we have shown through there that would illustrate the relationship of that balcony to the property line and the adjacent home? Has there been any communication with that neighbor in regards to the balcony or those windows?
I don't have a section at this point. Obviously that's something that we can develop, as we continue to get, more involved with this project. The house to the south is set down. I mean, if we go to the photo, it's on the next sheet, it's photo 10, in the top middle. You can see that house is set, it steps down several feet from our parcel. So that second floor does look out over the top of that existing house. But that's definitely something that we can come back with, to better show that relationship, to give some additional information.
And just a question for the owners would be whether they've spoken to this downhill neighbor and showed and shared their plans with this neighbor.
Actually, unfortunately, our intent would absolutely be to do so. Based on COVID, we haven't. I know that they're of a kind of a more of a riskier demographic, and I do see a nurse outside of my house often. So after this went through, we were gonna write a handwritten letter and give them the opportunity to reach out, but we were being extra careful about all things considered. So I hope that makes sense. But after knowing what we're kind of dealing with, and then obviously the changes in the State of the Union with COVID, we would absolutely love to talk to them.
Okay, and just to be clear, you're asking for project design approval today, Mr. Hornbuckle?
That's how it was agendized. I wasn't necessarily thinking that we would be receiving project design approval, but we'll take it if we can get it.
If I could
thank you.
interrupt, Chair Miller, I just want to offer
Yes.
a couple comments that might help. It was brought to our attention today that those balconies as drawn on the plans currently do encroach into the setback, which wouldn't be allowed, so that will have to be corrected. And if you do decide to grant project design approval today, that would need to be a condition of approval. Also, I did agendize this project for project design approval because we do have a complete application. So I just wanted to give the board the option, if you felt this project was ready for that, you could grant project design approval. However, if you just want to give comments today, you can treat it as a concept review as well.
And if I may, Chair Miller, Board Member Klaus, the intent with those balconies is not that they're, 3 or 4 foot deep balconies that you walk out onto. They're really railings, right? They're more of Juliet railings that, allow those doors to be open to, take advantage of the, outside air.
Okay, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, any questions, please?
Yes, I have one question, I think. East elevation. If we look at the east elevation, you're proposing that garage right there. When I look at it, I see, even though it's not a railing, I see a stucco, which is supposed to be stucco to match existing.
Correct.
It looks like a modern addition to a 1950s Mesa track home with a glass garage door that doesn't fit. Now that's a comment,
So-
but
Yeah. Leave it to questions, please.
okay, I'll change it to a question. Are you trying to introduce a modern look to the house by putting the difference between where the horizontal siding and the windows are and the stucco underneath? To me, I'll save my comments till later, but I'm asking, are you trying to put a modern look to that house when the house is not a modern look? And granted, there are houses in the neighborhood that actually did this, but I think they went through before this board was formed, and they are, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
making comments. I want
It's
to
okay.
stop.
To answer your question, yes, I mean, there are a number of houses, examples within the neighborhood that do have, glass garage doors, wood siding on the second floor, et cetera. That being said, the design intent with this project is that we, respect the original design, the late 50s, early 60s design, but that it does have a slight, modern approach to it. We aren't designing this project in, the late 50s, early 60s. It's present day. So we want to be, honest with it, but still be respectful of the existing fabric of the neighborhood.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
Looking at the east elevation, I'm just trying to get the prospect here. Is Cliff Drive to the right in this picture?
Correct.
So I guess my question is, if Cliff Drive's to the right and you've got the water over there, wouldn't you want the second story to be over the first story rather than over the garage so you're closer to the water?
The Cliff, I think it's the opposite.
Yeah, the view is to the left.
So the view is to the left.
Yes.
Yes.
Pardon my question.
It's
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I really have, oh, the question I have, the garage door. So you were, what type of a garage door were you planning? It's a glass
I mean,
garage?
obviously this is very conceptual still. We were proposing an aluminum and glass, frosted glass aluminum door, but, we've got a long way to go, so.
I was gonna say, I'm impartial. I just wanted a little light in the garage because I have 3 cats that traverse in and out of their little home in there. So
The cats. Okay, all right, great, thank you.
I'm in full form here.
That's the only question I have. So I'm bring it back to the board for comments. Board Member Sweeney, do you have comments, please?
Yes, can we go to that aerial photograph again, please? I want to start at the top level and then work my way down to some details. The thing that's intriguing about this project is this notion of adding a second floor and pushing most of that second floor towards the street. And in some ways, from a planning standpoint, that's a good thing. One of our challenges in this entire Mesa neighborhood, and particularly in these homes that were built as tract homes, model A, B, and C, generally had the same floor plan. Sometimes they got flipped. Sometimes the front facades got a different treatment, but essentially they're all the same. Had they been thinking, they would have offset these homes as they started to terrace down towards the ocean. They didn't do that. So now we've got a lot of folks buying these single-story homes and wanting to put second floors on them. And this is where we get into the conflict. And here comes the twin. I'm married to a twin, so I know all about twins. So the advantage we have here in reviewing this home is that we've got an opportunity to approve a house that puts a second floor kind of where we need to have it as the homes start descending down the street. So if the home below this at some point wants to come for a second floor, then, and if we were reviewing it, I would encourage that applicant to move the second floor a little to the west, so that the second floor created by this application, having windows at the southwest corner, still has that consistent view down to the ocean. And I realize all of these properties step down, but our dilemma as we move down this street is where everybody wants to put their second floor. And just so you know, the house on further else came to that I've been on this board a long time and remember most things. I could be wrong, but it didn't come. It was going to come for a second floor, and there was a flurry of neighborhood letters that got sent, and the owner withdrew the request. Now I'd like to go then to the plan of the second floor, if we could, please. So having said what I just said, what's now happening is we've strung that second floor out. So there's this long element. It's almost as if I would like to take that loft element and move it up around the corner to the north side. I realize that takes away some full view to the south, but it also might open the view to the north towards the top of the mesa. And that would be much more consistent with a general approach to planning by then allowing the house below it, when it comes for its second floor, to move it the other way. And then what I would do is take your master bedroom element and tend to make it have a corner window element, a very contemporary approach, which kind of starts to align with where you're going with the style of this house. So that in the future, your view is to the south, down Salida del Sol, and to the east, and where you're going to see the ocean. So I'm assuming if you got on a ladder and simulated being up on that second floor, that's what you would see at the corner of the bedroom. I also question the zoning issue of those little balcony stickouts. I think under the building code, you're allowed to go out 18 inches, but I could be incorrect. Maybe Mr. Motisha can correct me on that, but I don't know that it's a zoning issue. I think it's a building code issue, but staff will work that out. So that's my thought. I understand why you put the loft over there, but it would, in my view, from a planning standpoint, work better the other way. Now, having said that, I think we're all pointing to the fact that both the windows off the loft and the master bedroom may have some indication of privacy issues between the southerly property and this property. And generally, we try to pay attention to the privacy issues, not the view issues, but to the privacy issues, and get folks to realign windows, move them up, move them down, etc., so that the property next door is not looking up into your windows and you're not looking down into their windows. It's a privacy issue. And so without that information, it's hard to tell whether the plan presented is actually going to work. The other concern I have, you're now creating a canyon. We can go to the first floor plan, please. You're now creating a canyon of shadow because of the way the sun moves across Santa Barbara, the Mediterranean climate. That's why you moved here. I assume part of the reason you moved here is that interior courtyard is going to be in shade virtually all day. And in the winter, it will be cool in there. The summer, yes, that's an advantage. It makes it cool. It's nice. The breeze will go through, but in the winter, it's going to be cold. And I kind of understand why you're doing that, because it gives you windows, a window over the kitchen sink, which in my view is always pretty important. And it gives you windows into bedroom number 3 and certainly the family room. But I'm a little concerned that after a few years, you're going to get pretty sick of that. So I don't know whether the designer explored with you pushing the garage right up to the wall of the family room and reversing the front entry so that it's on the southerly side. It's just it's a concern of livability. I'm sure you'll get that worked out with your architect, but I'm a little concerned. If you now then go to the elevation of the east elevation on Salida del Sol, if you could please. Again, you see how it's in shadow. You know, part of the challenge here we all have as architects is, you know, we live in an age of, every age is different, every time period. If you look at my home, it has this postmodernist thing now I could kick myself for dealing with when I did it in the 80s. It doesn't, it's aged itself maybe not well. This house is going to age because you're using all the latest trends. The horizontal wood, we now see that everywhere. Everybody's doing it. You see it all over the mesa. Yes, it could look nice. The glass garage doors really, in my view, aren't appropriate, but you see them all over the mesa. A lot of them have gotten put in because they don't come to this board for approvals because they're not doing second floors. They fall under a different category. But I think they're getting passé now. Maybe we'll live past this in the next few years. They'll start to go away along with the horizontal wood stuff. So it's almost like I wish you could do a contemporary home that marries with, you know, kind of this quiche style that was introduced for Plan A, B, and C as a tract house. But I think you have enough talent, Mr. Hornbuckle, along with your entire staff at Cornell Collective, that you might be able to approach this a little bit differently, be a little more inventive with your idea about trying to make this a contemporary home, and maybe be a little more successful. This is certainly acceptable. It's not you know, awful, or you know, somebody would say, I would generally say would be not compatible or awkward. It's none of those things. It's certainly acceptable, but I think with a little more effort, you could have a much more pleasing design. And so I would encourage you to continue to explore. We always get confused why some of this stuff gets brought to us without any zoning review, and then we get stuff with zoning review, and now it's prepared for the very first visit to get project design approval. I'm not there yet with project design approval. I think it needs a little more work, and certainly we need to understand the privacy issues between the Southerly property and this property. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Colas, do you have any comments, please?
You know, it's always a tough billing to come after Mr. Sweeney. I feel like half the time I've got nothing left to say. I generally agree with much of what Mr. Sweeney has said. I do have one broader, more conceptual comment to make relative to the massing. I did drive up and take a look at this location today. In fact, somebody from Southern California Edison, I think, was leaving your property, and he was looking at me as though I was some sort of lurker or something. But I was across the street taking a look at the front of the home, and I was looking at it in relationship to the residents across Cliff Drive, as well as just the general public views down the street. And I intentionally sort of cookie loud back and drove back down Cliff Drive to get a sense of what is happening in the neighborhood, what is happening along Cliff Drive as I, as a vehicular, observer, move along Cliff Drive. Are most things two-story? Are most things one-story? Are they, is the ground level of is the ground level of the parcels below Cliff Drive? In some cases it is. The general sense that I got is that a real effort has been made to try to keep the homes on, I'll call it the south side of Cliff Drive, generally shorter or diminutive, in order to retain some of those views as you drive along Cliff Drive. That's one of the beautiful things about driving along Cliff Drive. Just like when you're up on the Riviera, many of the homes are below the street on the view side of the street. And we really get that same sense as we drive along Cliff Drive. So I appreciated the fact that the applicant had placed the bulk of the massing on the second floor, actually on the south side, because it provided some relief from Cliff Drive as you're viewing across the home, in theory. And I don't think that there's anything happening with what's being proposed that impedes the views down Salida del Sol. So that was encouraging to me. I don't think that the neighbors, and I could be wrong, but I parked intentionally in front of the home that I think was the home of the person that we got the letter from, the public comment from. I don't know that they have a view down Salida del Sol. I believe that the neighbor to them does, and that's the picture that Mr. Hornbuckle included. I do think that they can see down Salida del Sol with their big window out in the front of their home. So my bigger concern is what does this do in terms of creating a precedent for second-story homes directly along Cliff Drive? That's my bigger concern here. Are we all of a sudden creating a different vocabulary to the neighborhood by doing this? So I think that the scale, I think that the addition of the second floor on the south side is the right thing. I can understand Mr. Sweeney's comments about providing a staggering opportunity. I'm concerned about the privacy issues on the south side, and I do think those need to be resolved. I look at this and I do think that the architecture that's being presented is disparate with the existing home. I feel like there's incongruity here. Part of me wants to say, wow, this is a cool old 50s 60s, funky beach shack home, right? That happened to be at the top of the hill. And so these people probably paid more money for their home than the person at the bottom of the hill. But instead of, a glass garage door, part of me goes, wow, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a cool tiki door on the home? Or like, how could you embrace that sort of 50s, 60s beach genre of the home and really play with that instead of just going to this sort of stripped down, modern, smooth troweled plaster, glass, metal roof, cookie cutter sort of kit of parts that we seem to be seeing all of the time. So I would really encourage you to go back to the roots of that 50s, 60s Brady Bunch sort of era and try to figure out how you could make this a really cool, fun beach shack for you and the kids, because I think that's probably why you bought the home. So those would be my comments. I think those were the only things that I was concerned about, was massing and just trying to provide some background as to why I think the south side is the correct place to place it. It does provide some relief for Cliff Drive.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I also like the massing to the south. I like how it's stepped back from Cliff. Cliff is pretty busy too, so sound is also a factor. But we did get the letter, so I do think it is appropriate and always a good idea to communicate with your neighbors, but I feel like it does make sense for the neighborhood. The floor plan makes a lot of sense. You did a lot with the square footage, the addition of square footage, and I like how the doors open to the landscape. I also appreciate keeping as much landscape as possible by using the driveway real estate. So I think that was well done with the site planning there. And I like the upgrade in materials. I could go either way with what Board Member Kalas said. I like the upgraded materials either way, especially the siding detail. I do think the horizontal wood, I know it's kind of in vogue, but it's all over the mesa, and I do think it makes sense for the neighborhood. And those are all my comments.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Board Member Motisha, comments, please.
Yeah, my turn. I still think massing is great. Yes, it should be on the south side there. Because I walked all the way around the house sides. Yes, that's where it should be, but I still am concerned about the fact that it looks like you put a box down there, which doesn't fit the rest of the house. And I think that with a little, Mr. Hornbuckle, with a little originality of changing what you have, basically a window, some horizontal siding, some stucco, and a garage door. Change the horizontal lines in that to match more of the original house, rather than make it try to make it look modern, but it's not. It's just a box there. It's a two-story box with a gable roof on it. And the other part of the house still, the original part of the house still looks like the original house. But this doesn't match it, to my concern, to my opinion, and it doesn't match our leave it there. Try something with the horizontal lines of the four different elements: the windows, the wood siding, the stucco, and the garage door. And I would say the garage door is not going to make it. I don't think this board is going to allow that garage door. So you might as well change the garage door to something that this board, if you've listened to this board in the past, is more in keeping with what our standard, or not standards, but our, I keep losing that word I'm looking for. I'm getting older yet now. Yeah, the garage door needs to be changed to fit what's going to be allowed by this board, and then fit that garage door into what you're proposing in that size, bulk, and scale of that lower.
Design guidelines, is that what you're looking for?
Pardon?
Design guidelines, is that perhaps what you're thinking of?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brian. That's my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
Well, I hear Mr. Motisha's comments about the garage door, but the owner has 3 cats and she'd like to have some light in there. So I have a feeling we're probably going to have to be pretty flexible on having a glass garage door in this particular set of circumstances. That's my comment.
Thank you. The only comments I have, I love.
Chair Miller, we lost your audio there.
You have. You
that's
hear me now?
Yes.
Now you're
Could you-
back.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you.
So anyway, so the only thing that stuck out to me, as far as the garage door, in our design guidelines, we tend to not encourage glass doors on public streets because of the glare effect. So, you know, like a nice band of windows are good for your cats. But all of it being all glass, we tend to not like that, because what happens, and I've seen this, is at night when you put a light in the garage, you can see things piled up and it kind of lanterns out onto the driveway, and it's not an attractive look. So we encourage people to not use those in a highly visual, where people can see it from the street. I'm really glad you didn't use standing metal seam roof. That seems to be the vogue too. And I really feel that makes it makes me feel a little more comfortable about this house. I can completely hear what the architect is trying to achieve here. And I'm actually comfortable with it. I get it. But I think those will be my only comments at this time. So with that being said, we need to entertain a motion. Would someone like to make a motion for this project? And let's see, what they're here for. I lost my paperwork. They're here for project design approval, or they can come back for comments either to the full board or to consent. Who would like to entertain a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead, and since we're running late, move the motion that this project return to the full board with the following comments: that the applicant consider reshaping the second floor around the area where the loft is located. However, under any conditions, we would like the applicant to return with whoops, what happened? The applicant return with appropriate sections between the southerly property and the applicant's property, so that we understand what the privacy issues are with the home below. That should be accompanied with a site plan showing that adjacent house and the window locations. That the applicant return with some consideration for refocusing a design that addresses the essence of this 1950s, 60s original piece of architecture and how it turns into a more contemporary current version. The board is not supportive of a completely glass garage door. However, we will be able to look at some version of glazing in the garage door. And there are many examples of how to achieve that. That the board would certainly like to look at when the project returns, where potential landscaping changes will be made, where exterior lighting will be considered, and certainly a first pass at house colors, finish colors, roof material, etc. We'd like the applicant to work with staff to work out issues for any balcony elements that may be facing south, so that they comply with both the building code and setback requirements of the zoning. The board appreciates the lower pitch of the roof. And so to maintain that 23 feet 4 inch measurement would be certainly acceptable. The board appreciates the general location of the proposed second floor addition at the southwest corner. The board feels that that would be appropriate in the general planning in reflecting how two-story elements are going to play out against the Cliff Drive side of the project, and also as the homes descend down Salida del Sol. I think I've covered all the comments I heard from everyone. Did I miss anything? If not, that's my motion, and I'll wait for a second.
Thank you. Ms. Burkhardt, did you have something you needed to say?
Yes, I would like to ask if you could continue this to a date certain, either of April 12th or April 26th, as we do have a complete application. We are working with permit streamlining at deadlines. So if you could just add that to your motion.
We can certainly add those dates, whatever works, fits into the schedules, is appropriate. Ms. Kloss, I saw you raise your hand. Did you want to add to my motion?
I'm willing to second your motion. I just noticed that you said southwest relative to the second
excuse me,
floor
southeast.
addition. I think you meant to say southeast, and I just wanted to make
Southeast,
sure that was captured properly. So with that change, I would offer a second to the motion.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. I added in that change and I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Kulas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Lauren.
Thank you very much.
Chair Miller, I
Thank
would
you.
like to, Chair Miller, pardon the interruption. I would like to clarify the date that we are returning with this project. Maybe Mr. Hornbuckle is April 12th or April 26th?
April 12th is going to be too soon. So what's the next date?
26th, April 26th?
Yeah, let's plan for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks all.
See you later. Bye-bye. Okay, moving on to item 4. Yes, we're about 20 minutes late. Do we need a 5-minute break? Does the board need a 5-minute break? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and come back at 5:59. Single Family Design Board. Should I call roll call or should we just start? Ms. Burkhardt?
I believe we can just start. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to item number 4. This is a new item for concept review, pre-application for a one-time concept review for the addition of a new 992 square foot basement, a 792 square foot addition to the first floor, and a new 720 square foot second floor to an existing 627 square foot two-story residence on a 31,972 square foot lot located in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The project includes new metal roofing to match the existing garage, new cement siding to the exterior walls, and 12 cubic yards of grading outside the main building footprint. The proposed 3,131 square foot development on a 30,382 square foot lot is 65% of the maximum guideline floor to lot ratio, area ratio. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings. Do we have a representative for this project?
Chair Miller, we do, but if I could give a brief introduction before we started. I just wanted to give you a little information because this is something we don't typically see. This is basically a design review consultation. It's a one-time concept review prior to submitting for a formal planning application. So the applicants in this situation are encouraged to submit sketches or conceptual plans just for initial feedback on on very general issues such as architectural style and the project size, bulk, and scale. Your comments tonight will be non-binding, meaning they won't carry over to future reviews, and the applicant would need to return for another concept review as part of a formal planning application to bind them to any of your requests and comments today. So it's very preliminary plans, just looking for general feedback on the design as a whole. And with that, we have an applicant, Mr. Paul. I'm going to unmute you. I'm not able to admit you as a panelist. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. You may go ahead and present your project when you're ready. Thank you.
Well, I'm actually the applicant's contractor. John Sherritt's probably trying to get online right now. Do you have him in your queue?
I do. I just made him a panelist. Mr. Sherritt, your microphone is live. If you choose to turn on your webcam, you can do so as well. But we are able to hear you if you, I believe we'd be able to hear you. Maybe not. Your microphone is green, but I'm not hearing anything, Mr. Sherritt.
Oh, geez. Oh, there he is.
There we have video.
John, you there? Yo, John. Sorry. John, can you hear us?
No problem.
Hold on. You know what? Let me call him while we're talking here. John's, if you can hear us, John.
We don't seem to have any sound.
Oh, there you are. Okay, we got you. You're there.
Great. You can go ahead and present your project. Thank you.
Go ahead, John. Hang on one second. Sorry for the technical difficulty. I'm going to call him. Hold on. If he just starts talking, you can do it.
Just needs to talk.
I have no sound.
Okay. We can hear Mr. Sherritt, but he cannot hear us. Mr. Paul.
Yes, Paul, so. Well, I did start talking, and I told him that I have no sound.
Okay, they can hear you though. We can all hear you. Just go ahead and present your project.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, folks, I'd like to start with the L1 drawing. If you can find that. Well, we'll start there, which is the ground floor plan. And as you can see, it's basically offices. And then this is the garage that was built last 2 years ago with Paragon Builders. We can probably move on to the next drawing, which is the A1 ground floor plan. And this house was part of the adjacent house as a guest house, and therefore it's very small, 620 square feet. There's no kitchen, no dining room. And so that explains the need to go out this way. We have kept the living room to the west for a nice long view towards Hawaii, and to make the view from neighbors across the street with this angle so that hopefully they won't see so much building. So we should probably go on to the second floor plan, which is directly above, and there's one bedroom and family room. This is open to the space below to make that living room recognize here. This is the top of the existing garage. And then up next will be the roof. And it's very short. This is the existing roof that's visible from the street, which is a aged copper color. And we're going to use that on the rest of the building. We have solar panels up here on both sides, and this is a little maintenance shed, so we can work with adjust the panels, including them. And I guess we probably should go to the elevations. There you go. This is the front elevation on Edgewater Way. And this is the copper colored panels. And this is that little maintenance shed. And pretty much looks like, it will look like what it does now. We do have a lot of hedges and trees. So let's move on to the east elevation, which is that one. And this is a piece that is kicked about 45 degrees to the west, which hopefully from the street will not be very visible. This is the existing garage. The house goes to about here. We extend out 18 feet of new living room. 8 feet would be this piece here. And this will become the main entrance. We go to the next one, which would be the south at Blue. And this is the west. And we've tried to minimize windows. These happen to be just bathroom windows that would be frosted. But just want to make sure the neighbors don't think that we're trying to spy on them. This is an existing garage, which is wood shingles. And then this one again will be the aged copper and then the cement plaster. Could go to the next one, which is south, which obviously has a lot of glass and is the big view. We're right on the water, and if you look out our windows, we don't see any houses, just landscape and ocean and piles. And again, there's the copper roof and a lot of glass and then cement plaster. And that's it. These are the lower level offices and living room and such. And so the section is really down. They show the roof being pitched to minimize the height. And then this is the solar panels. And pretty obvious what the other things are bedrooms. So there's one more section. And this is the existing garage here. And then this is that living room with the high ceiling and the family room and dining room. We have a decent kitchen. And the ground floor. We can get some good sunlight heading towards the ocean. The slope is pretty significant. You can see the garage is out here. It slopes down. So this space is not visible from any street. And it won't be visible from the ocean either. And that's pretty much my presentation. I think I kept it under my 2 years. The acreage is, I think, 0.7 acres. That's a decent sized lot, and you can see how long it goes down to the ocean here. And it's very protected, and it's on a bend. And we have made a large attempt to make ourselves invisible with existing hedges and trees.
Brian?
Yeah.
We actually own the property.
Should I get him on the phone and then I can route the questions through to you?
Which we got a subdivision. Lot split from the city. And then the next stage after that was the 2 garages. So I don't know if you've got anything else I guess that's it. So that's my short presentation. I'm open for questions. This is the overall site, and we're on the bend right here. That's why, yeah, comes down and then goes this way.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
I'm
that's the way it is.
having a really hard standing.
This is where it actually comes
Let me
down
call him
and
again.
goes,
Sorry, just 1 second. I'm going to call him. Sorry that this is happening. Hold on. He
Okay.
can't hear you. You don't have his speaker disabled, do you?
We do need a concept review, which we're getting now, hopefully, and then approval, so that we can move to the next step and hire some structural engineers and mechanical engineers. So we can finish up the roofing drawings. But we want to make sure that you guys understood what we were doing. And
John, can you hear us at all?
so open the questions and any comments.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, John?
Like, if you're talking, I can't.
I
hear
can't.
you,
I can't.
Mr. Bryan.
Needs to talk, not talking.
Well, this is my partner, who is John Jover, calling me to tell me what's wrong.
I've muted
Yes,
Mr.
you-
Paul while he's on the phone.
So I don't know what was happening. Yes.
John, they muted me. You can't hear us, so I'm not sure how we're going to continue here unless they ask me a question and I ask you.
Okay, so I'll leave you on if that's acceptable to them.
Okay, well, Barbara, you're the planning technician.
We can try having him call in. Maybe 5 minutes to try and resolve this, Chair Miller. I'm sorry. Should we?
Barbara, do you want to give him a number so that you guys can talk directly with him?
Yeah, can we take a 5-minute recess, Chair Miller? And we'll
Let's
try to
take a
work this out.
5-minute recess and we'll get back at 6:20. Is that good?
That's
Sounds
good.
good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Come back.
one
Yes.
had a lot of questions because basically we got what we got by looking at the floor plans and sections without any verbal comments from the owner and architect.
Mr. Modisha, can we get, Brian has called for public comment, and then we can go to our.
Yeah, we gotta get public comment, so hold on, Joe.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Fred.
If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara and board members. We did receive written correspondence from Wanda Venturelli, Bruce Venturelli, Brian Zabelski, and Laura Bridley, and it was distributed to the board before this meeting.
Okay, thank you. We do have one hand raised. I would like to call on Kate Dole. I'm going to send you an unmute let's see. Okay. I'm going to send you an unmute request, Ms. Dole. Okay, your microphone is live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a neighbor. I live at 123 Mohawk, just up the street from this project. And my initial concerns are that, first of all, some of my neighbors are out of town, so they're not here to participate in the webinar. But my first instinct, and I'm looking forward to seeing story polls, is that it seems like it's kind of a massive addition to this very small and cottage-like structure. And also the cupola on top of the roof seems to sort of add to that problem with the massiveness. I'm wondering, the plans call for an 8-foot sound wall, and I'm not seeing that on any of the plans, a masonry sound wall, other than the elevations or sections. So I'm just wondering if that could be located for me on the site plan. And then also, we've been working as neighbors very hard in the neighborhood to maintain the very beach-like quality with, either wood siding, wood shingles, or board and bat. It's much more sort of cottagey feel. And going into a plaster siding seems like the wrong direction to me. And the roof, the small strip of existing roof on the garage is fairly recent. And it doesn't look like a patina copper in my mind. It looks like a green metal roof. So I just want you to keep that in your minds when you review this project, that I think we need less of that and not more of it. And then I'm just thinking, as a way of reducing the mass, one thing, instead of having a 2-story living space, they could step back from the ocean away for that 2nd story, the top story, to reduce the massing on the project. So anyway, look forward to seeing your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no other hands raised, so I will hand it back to you, Chair Miller, although I'm not sure that we have. Let's see, we might have one more public comment. I'm going to call Leticia Dowling. Let's see, I've unmuted you. Your mic is live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
I'm going to step away from my computer for a moment and lock my doors. Just got a shelter in place notice.
Wow.
Ms. Daly, your microphone is live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready. Okay, maybe that was not a raised hand. I'm gonna mute you, Ms. Daly. We have another hand raised. Mahesh Balakrishnan, I would like to call on you. I'm going to unmute you. Sending you an unmute request. Okay, your mic is live. Yes, you have 2 minutes whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Great. This may not be the purview of this committee, but I'd just love to understand from the architect and the contractor whether they've looked into whether this property is, you know, behind the sort of 75-year setback line and is a, you know, whether it's a conforming or non-conforming property, because this is obviously a very big addition. That's it.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to try Leticia Daly one more time. Ms. Daly, you're unmuted. Your mic is live. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
I can't do it and Letty can't hear them.
I can hear you now.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not Letty Daly, but that's okay. I'm her sister, so I'm speaking on her behalf as well. My name is Irma Avila. Thank you. I was born, lived, grew up on Mohawk Road with my 4 siblings. My parents still live there. And obviously, I'm going to go on a more personal note. My parents migrated from Mexico and became citizens here in the U.S. They bought their beautiful home on 121 Mohawk Road. Later on, purchased a house across the street at 126 Mohawk Road. And like I said, they are still there. And on a personal note, my mother has Alzheimer's, and she is now 80 years old. And she sits out on that deck every day, and she reminisces, and it's like everything was just yesterday. And I think that losing her deck view would be detrimental and very sad. Mr. Surratt deserves his dream house. We all do. And we've worked hard to get there, and we did, and we got it. But he does not need to take away from us, his soon-to-be neighbors, what we worked hard for as well. So I just hope that he hears us. He doesn't have to build out and take away the view. He can build up and in another direction. I don't know, but he doesn't need to take away our view. And that is really all I have to say is, please, Mr. Surratt, don't take it away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no other hands raised at this time, Chair Miller, so I'll hand it back to you for.
Follow my spiel at all.
Oh, I'm gonna mute Ms. Daly. Okay. We have lost Mr. Paul, so I'm going to unmute Mr. Surratt. I'm not sure how questions are going to work at this time, Chair Miller.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Barbara, if we might need to postpone this project until you get a better, I mean,
Yeah. That might be a good idea. I'm not sure how these one-time concept review works. Let me just get a little feedback from my.
well, there's John, Mr. Surratt.
Mr. Chair, this is Vice Chair Sweeney. Can I make a comment at this point, please?
Absolutely, please.
I certainly appreciate the technology problem we're having, and ordinarily we would be patient and listen through. But I'm prepared to require this project to come back to us on a motion. First of all, the information provided is not adequate. We're going to spend a considerable amount of time just trying to understand what's on the drawings. Now, I understand from communication I've had with staff earlier today on emails that this came to us as an initial concept, and that's perfectly understandable. And we've had that on occasion from time to time in the past. But these drawings are totally inadequate. They do not even meet the minimum requirements required by design review application. North arrows aren't on these drawings. The scales don't work. There's dimensions that aren't incorrect, that aren't to scale. There's no setback shown. There's no information shown sequentially. This is information that should have been reviewed prior to these drawings even getting to us. So we're going to waste about an hour today just going through that part before we can even begin to discuss and ask questions about the concept being presented. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion that this project return after staff has had a proper review of the drawings to make sure that basic information is provided on these drawings as required and understood on the design review application submittal for any drawings that get submitted to the city of Santa Barbara. That's my motion.
All right, thank you. May I have a second?
I second it.
Yeah.
All right, may I have a roll call, please?
All right, thank you. This is Mary. I'll start with Chair Miller,
Yes?
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Koloff,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I look forward to seeing this plan when the drawings are more complete as per Mr. Sweeney's request and what the general guidelines are for fulfilling our requirements. With that being said, I'm going to close the Single Family Design Board for March 29th. Thank you very much, you guys. Great job.